What's going on, Fortnite fam? The Divisional Cup continues to heat up. There's only one more left before the season is over. Eval finals as well. Some interesting results with the next generation winning some games. Peterbot and Pollo continue in their slump. There's so much to talk about this week. Let's get right into the mix. This week around Central was on a Monday. It did get rescheduled because of the Milk Cup. Congratulations to Nina and Vader and even Frantic and Canary for putting on quite a show along with the rest of the players in the Milk Cup. But that means the Divisional Cup on Central was played on a Monday, which kind of mixed things up just a little bit. But to talk about it real quick, you will not hear about much Peterbot and Pollo. They did not qualify for the finals. They already talked about their frustrations for the season. It's kind of nothing really to play for in their eyes, and it's kind of just the crash pads as well. They haven't really mixed it together as a duo, so they're just kind of taking some time to kind of reassess before maybe even next season, the mini season of the Simpsons, or the next chapter overall. But this week, that kind of led for a new champion and someone to not get hunted around the map. Curve and Craze ended up pulling out the win overall, 306 points. They didn't necessarily get a win. They did get a second place, 25 overall eliminations. So the recipe for them was just pure consistency throughout the all 6 games. In second place, the kings of consistency, I feel like week after week. I talk about them, Rapid and Threats. They also played all 6 games out, 280 points, 21 eliminations. Their highest game was a third. They also did get a 4th place. So it just goes to show that this team will always be in the hunt no matter who is in the lobby with them. They did have some troubles. I believe one of the games kind of getting contested, getting tagged up out of the sky, but I do like their chemistry. I do like their gameplay as a team. I know there were some rumors about Higgs and Rapid maybe coming back together, but that leads us into our 3rd place team of Clicks and Higgs, 278 points. But the interesting thing is they only played out 5 games, and out of those 5 games they did get 2 victory royales, both of them being back-to-back. They had 17 eliminations through those games, 22 overall through 5. So you gotta wonder, even if they get like a top 10th place in the game that they did not get to play, that would put them in first. Clicks and Higgs been getting better and better week after week in this duos, and it kind of takes some time because Higgs wasn't normally the IGL, it was Yamzo for their trios when he played with Rapid. So neither one of these guys really being that superstar IGL. So I do like Higgs kind of taking that role, allowing Clicks to play for a little bit more freedom, maybe even some fragging. And in duos means there's a lot of clutch potential. So even though Higgs kind of being the IGL, I wouldn't count him out for making some big plays because we've already seen a bunch of those so far. But in 4th place, Ritual and Cold. This time around, they were uncontested. Epic Whale and Pump did not make it into the finals lobby this time around. So they got to show what their full potential actually is. 4th place overall. And the interesting is 4th place, 28 elims, they didn't have a single game 5th place or better. So it just goes to show this team is still working out some issues, still working out some kinks in their gameplay, but they are still one of our top teams on the reach. And Cooper and Sphinx, they also pulled out a victory royale, landing in 5th place overall. I always talked about that landing spot that they have at the top right. Yes, some people look at it as a good drop. There's metal, there is rotation, but in my experience watching a lot of Fortnite, that's not necessarily a good spot on the map at all, especially with the contested fights that do go around. That go ahead and means that a lot of the players will either be rotating elsewhere for the scrap loot or for their surge, which kind of leaves you having to rotate around the map, and hopefully you're able to find what you need. But Ark and Kanata, they're still kind of up and down. One week they're winning the Divisional Cup, one week they're in the top 6. So I'm excited to see them continue to perform well enough for their standards. Ark, I don't believe, is on 0 ping just yet, so I'm excited to see the GOAT when he does get to that 0 ping, maybe when FNCS rolls around. I do like this duo working well together because Kanata, one of the most experienced players, qualified for every single grand finals, playing with so many different teammates along that path. I think he has a lot to teach someone like Ark, and I think this team will be somebody when FNCS rolls around, if they are together, that we will be in the hunt for an FNCS championship. Day and Jack actually performed pretty well, 7th place overall. Void and Josh continue to light up the leaderboard. Josh is kind of looked at as the new generation, the next up after Peterbot, the Clickses, the Higgs, the Agers, and all those guys with the Pollo. People are looking at Josh, and Josh, In terms of an individual talent, has been performing out of our mind. He's had 1v2s against Peterbot and Pollo. He's been taking down big names in solos. So I'm excited to see his trajectory and his career continue to progress. Continue looking down that leaderboard though. Taki and Bert, sometimes we see him in the top 10, sometimes we don't. This is a team that has a ton of experience. I think with the mode going right back to duos, some teams and players need to kind of get rid of that trio habits that they might have early on. And plus with the Storm Surge changes going on, which we'll talk more about later, it's kind of throwing a wrench in the mix. And then rounding out our top 10 for this week, Iamzo and Agers. It's not necessarily where they had hoped, but again, just like Clicks and Higgs, they were one of 5 teams to not make it into one of these games, so they only played out 5 games. They did get a 4th, their worst place 25th, so every single one of their games, they still managed to score points, but I think this week was significantly below their kind of trajectory, their play style, kind of what we know their performance to be as a team. Victor V and Paper, shout out for 11th, and kind of just continue looking down the list. Let me know what you guys think about a lot of these teams. I know I did mention about Ritual Cold being kind of uncontested, but it was actually different this time around because Peterbot and Pollo did not make it into the lobby, so that kind of switched up the drop spots a little bit, so they did not land over towards Utopia, they went towards Dreamy, and so things did change up quite a bit in this lobby. And just continuing looking down the list, there wasn't too many surprises outside of maybe Muzz and Re, Acorn and Bolts, both placing 26th and 24th respectively, not having the best game. I'm not sure what happened on that whole north side of the map, but I know these are 2 teams to be looking at as top 10 teams in the overall region, so I wouldn't count them out by any means. Moving on over to NA West, this is where things got interesting. Because Central was rescheduled, normal Central players that only usually play 3 games out are able to play the entirety of all 6 games out, which kind of created an interesting mix in the region. First place overall, Acorn and Bolts. They win another Divisional Cup. So even though they eventually didn't play well on Central, they still earned their money. They still earned their respect on NA West, getting first place, 318 points. But right behind them on that leaderboard, 309, Epic Whale and Pump. So even though they may not have played to the best of their ability on Central, again, another team that performed well on West. And the reason why this is significant to me, because it shows the potential that they do have on a team. Being able to win the Divisional Cups, being able to place in the top 3, being able to place in the top 5 shows me something going into the next season, the next chapter, and the next FNCS as well. Vorks and Darks, a team that I talked about kind of fizzling out at the start of the day. This time around, it was a little bit of a different story. They were able to get eliminations. They were able to get high placing games, enough so to get a top 3 finish. So they're consistently towards the top side of the leaderboard when it comes to NA West this season. And maybe after globals, and some teams may try to take away the credit because they're not trying, but these are things I look at when I kind of go into next season. Who are the teams to beat? Who are the spotlight players? Who are the breakout? And right now, Vorks and Darks, when it comes to NA West, gotta be a breakout duo to look at. Clicks and Higgs from 3rd place in Central, 4th place in NA West. They as well got a win. They got a 3rd. They got a 4th. So being able to play these games out just shows that these Central players can teach the West players a thing or two, something we already knew. But at the same time, I think it's really good practice for the NA West players. Cops and Enact getting into the top 5. Ark and Kanata. Ark returning to his region, getting 6th place on that leaderboard. Sane and Gabix with 7th. Icy and Ash in 8th. Ratgun and Silksies, or Raygun and Silksies, they're going to go and round out the top 9. Another team that's been consistently getting better week after week, season after season. So I expect them, if they stay together, to qualify for your FNCS Grand Finals on this region, no matter what the meta is. And then G Money and Rise kind of rounding out our top 10 for NA West. Yes, there's a lot of Central players this time around, but that's something that I necessarily don't mind because it gives good practice for the entire region about how, I guess, good Fortnite should be played. Perfect Fortnite, professional. I don't really know what to call it. Say what you want. I still think this is good practice for the NA West team, but that's going to round out our Divisional Cups. After the Divisional Cups happened, it was our regular Storm Surge, same story, and then we had the Eval Finals, and under the radar, there was no announcement, but the Storm Surge had changed. Fortnite had changed it back to damage taken minus damage dealt is where you stand overall on the Storm Surge leaderboard. No one would have known about it unless Osirian went ahead and made a tweet about it, so shout out to him and everybody that played to it. but then that created a certain style of gameplay in the Eval/Eval finals that I'm not necessarily a fan of. So as we move into that, we can go ahead and look at some of the game winners. For game number 1, it was Cooper and Sphinx. They pulled out a victory royale. I talked about their drop spot earlier on in the video, but they still goes to show it's not always about the drop spot. It's the skill of the players and the mindset of being able to rotate in early. As we saw throughout the course of the tournament, if you ended up with max pull after max pull, you might have been down below the damage threshold, almost no way to come back from it. I know I watched it on stream. There were a few teams that were able to handle the pressure, but more times than not, if you get max pulls, you will go down towards this Storm Surge. And what we saw, it kind of made a stalemated gameplay, a campy style of gameplay, because we saw a lot of teams that would normally go for eliminations, peak a little bit more for Surge, were kind of complacent. They got their early game damage. They didn't take damage. They rotated to high mountains inside of these zones and just kind of boxed up. There was no real reason to move. There was no real risk reward that was worth it. As long as they were above the damage threshold with taking very, very little damage, they didn't really have to. So even though we saw Cooper and Sphinx win a game, we also saw Arc and Kanata pull out a game 2 win, and it was a huge clutch by Arc. Let's go ahead and check that one out, 2v2v1 situation. Kanata has every heal in the book. 300 on the Slapberry Fizz, 11 different splashes, 3 medkits as a just in case, 2v1 situation, odds on top of odds on top of odds. They're all stacked against him, especially even more so because guess who's going to disrupt? It's Arc. He's going to be the one dropping down eventually to try to challenge onto Agers, and here it comes layer by layer. He's just playing careful. He doesn't want to give any chances to Agers, and he's not going to get a single one. 4 eliminations. Arc and Kanata a mile ahead of the competition. Game 3 though, same story. When you get an uncontested team like Ritual and Cold, they prove to make everybody pay in the lobby. They were able to still pull out a win. They did have some performances with a couple of 11th places and 33rds overall, but it still goes to show that they can win and the biggest moments. But the biggest surprise to me, but a team that deserves all the credit, is TK and Higher. This team, I feel like, has always been at least in the conversation for Eval finals, getting 2nd places. This time they were able to kind of cash in, get their money in the last game of the day. And Higher comes from NA West as well, so somebody that I'll always be proud of when the NA West boys perform. And then TK, that's somebody I feel like doesn't get enough love. He has a ton of experiences. He's been in big moments. He just needs to find that right duo, that right team / chemistry for him to kind of shine and play to its strengths. I think this is a team that we could see, might be too early, that we could see talking about in the top 10, maybe qualifying for next year's global championship. That's just a matter if they do stay together, because I do believe roster mania will run wild. Agers and Yamzo did get close. 1 of the 2 of the games, they got a 2nd place, they got a 3rd. They also got a 5th and a 6th. So if this was an actual tournament, we'd probably be looking at them in 1st, 2nd place, but this is Eval finals. All that matters really is the win. Acorn and Bolts also had a 2nd place finish, so even though they didn't necessarily play well in the divisional finals, they still proved that they are a top team to be reckoned with. Booga and Donnie also almost cashed in. They got a 2nd place, 8 eliminations as well. So Booga going to show, like, hey, y'all can say what you want, watch this, watch that, I still got enough fight left in me. And him paired with Donnie, I feel like we might have something special here. We got the World Cup champion, a ton of experience, multiple FNCS titles, and then Donnie, another player people are talking about the next up. His insane mechanical skill, his fragging ability. We saw the 1v3 to qualify him for the global championship, or not the global championship, the grand finals last year. So I'm excited to see how that continues to play out. Eval finals, that Storm Surge though, don't like it at all, and they announced they're going to continue with that Storm Surge into the rest of the divisional cups. I'm assuming they're still testing it out though, because the last time we saw it, I don't think it worked correctly. It took a while for the Storm Surge values to update. Granted, I was watching in replay mode, but it just seemed it maybe wasn't functioning accordingly. I think this time around it is. Even though I don't like it, I do like it's being performed in Evaluation Cup divisional finals, so that way when FNCS does roll around there's a lot of data to back up which Storm Surge is the best Storm Surge, and I think for now it is going to be the old one versus the new one if we did have to have a choice. Epic also announced some new updated measures for their anti-cheat to kind of help battle what a lot of players have been going through. So hopefully we do see the return of maybe zero build and even solo victory cups, something I know a lot of people has been looking at. I don't even know what some of this stuff is, but kernel code integrity, stable OS version, strict injection policy, strict virtualization policy, Android secure device, iOS secure device, and minimum OS version. And then the OS obviously is the operating system. The example is Windows, Android, iOS, and those types of things. So even though I don't know necessarily what some of this is, I did take some of the previous measures so that way I can stay in Division 3 and at least try and qualify out of it. No luck just yet, but maybe you'll see a video on that when I do. But I think anything helps. I'm down for it if it is going to get rid of a lot of these cheaters that are ruining some of the gameplay. Even if they don't find a way to make it and eventually do get banned, they ruin the actual tournament itself. I've seen players first, second, third place, maybe even in the hunt of money, and they go down to some of these hackers. Fortnite also took action on a person using these as well. They kind of made a tweet saying, "I'm quitting," and then Fortnite quoted and said, "Nah, nah, 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 nah. You got banned. You got taken care of. Don't make it seem like you got off easy because you're never allowed to play Fortnite again." Something that I'm super excited about, that they're actually not only taking action, but publicly taking action on some of these players. I do hope it does help out, seeing as they're still somehow slipping through. I'm one that always believes it's going to be an ongoing battle. As technology increases in the anti-cheat, it's going to increase elsewhere as well, and so it's going to keep trying to raise the bar and one-up each other. But I do know that Epic is trying their hardest to deal with these so that way nobody else has to go through the pain and suffering of having one of these guys in your lobby. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think or what you even know about any of this. Maybe you guys can teach me a thing or two. But that's going to do it for today's video. We talked Divisional Cup, we talked Eval finals, we talked changes in the game, we've talked so much. Let me know what your favorite part about the video is so I can discuss it with you in the future. But until next time, keep yourself safe, and I'll see you on that battle bus. Beep beep.